Thank this leadership team and all of you. Good morning. Thank you. Representative Kagan's doing an extraordinary job for Virginia and our military families and all of the issues she works so hard on. Thank you for all that hard work. I tell you what, it's been an exciting 6 months. Sunday, as you all probably know, marked the first 6 months of the Trump presidency, the second term. The 47th president has had an incredible run. We're on a winning streak. America's hot again. We're bringing back strength and prosperity and capitalizing and delivering on all the campaign promises that President Trump made on the campaign trail and that all Republicans did by extension. We're really proud of that. And I tell you what, history is going to record this to be one of the most consequential, extraordinary first 6 months of any administration ever, because we have unified government. The voters in this country gave Republicans the chance to turn this mess around, and we are. So we have the White House and the Senate and the House, and we're using it effectively every single day. And here in the House, we've kept pace with President Trump's extraordinary momentum. He never sleeps, and so we don't get to either. We've been codifying his executive orders at a record pace. We're cementing America First policies into law. We're enacting the full scale of the Trump administration's agenda, with the passage, of course, of the One Big Beautiful Bill, sort of a capstone of the first 6 months. And we've accomplished so much in just that time period. And I think the key is we've done that with unity. As you all have noticed, it's very deliberate. We work very closely, hand in hand, the Senate and House Republicans as one united team. That's kind of an innovation in Washington, but a very important one. And we've demonstrated that that unity is how we deliver. There's no majority in the history of this body that can wield power unless it stands together. And so I work really hard. We all do. This leadership team does every day to keep everybody rowing in the same direction. This morning at our weekly conference meeting, we discussed the upcoming schedule, given the Democrats' endless efforts to politicize the Epstein controversy and that whole investigation. I want to be clear about this. There's a reason behind what we are doing here. We have a responsibility, actually a dual responsibility here, okay? I've been on record very clearly that I believe in maximum transparency. I think every single House Republican will say the same thing. In fact, they've told me that publicly and privately. They talk about this. We want maximum transparency. We also understand the other part of that duty is that we have to protect innocent victims, okay? We have to do both things at the same time. What do we mean by that? Look, involved in the Epstein evil, okay, which is what it was. Let's call it what it was. There are innocent victims of those unspeakable sex crimes, okay? Some of them were minors, some of them were not. When the Epstein records are turned over to the public, which we must do as quickly as possible, we have to also be very judicious and careful about protecting the innocent. I think everybody in the country should understand the necessity of that. It is the standard. I used to be a litigator. It's the standard in the court of law and the courts. It's the standard in law enforcement. Anyone who's served in law enforcement understands the necessity of that. It is the standard with government agencies. We protect the innocent. So we cannot be careless in an open release like that. You have to be very careful. The president himself has said that he wants maximum transparency and all credible evidence to be turned over to the American public so that everyone can make their own decisions. We're owed that. And we want any individual who has been involved in any way in the Epstein evils to be brought to justice as quickly as possible. And the law should be brought down upon their head. We're unequivocal about that, okay? We have to make sure that the credible evidence is revealed, and we're doing that. The president has made a request to the courts in the grand jury testimony and the files there, for example. And the court should turn that over, and that will be a continuing and ongoing quest. Now, what we refuse to do is participate in another one of the Democrats' political games. This is a serious matter. We are not going to let them use this as a political battering ram. The Rules Committee became the ground for them to do that. We're not going to allow them to engage in that charade anymore. Why do I call it a charade? Because the Democrats are trying to play gotcha politics right now when, as the leader just pointed out, they don't have any moral high ground on this at all. They controlled the Department of Justice for the last 4 years. Has anyone forgotten? They had all these files the entire time. They sat on everything Epstein related for 4 long years while President Biden was in office. You could draw your own conclusions as to why, but we've been intellectually consistent the entire time. And I want to say this about my colleagues Ro Khanna and Jim McGovern and Hakeem Jeffries and so many others. They've tweeted about Epstein countless times in the last 2 weeks, but go back and look at their social media accounts, we have, and their public comments. They had exactly 0 post on the subject for the last 4 years of the Biden administration. Interesting, isn't it? We all understand that the America First agenda and the American people are best served by putting an end to the Democrats' sideshows. And that's what we're doing by not allowing the Rules Committee to continue with that nonsense this week. As was noted, we've got tons of very important work going on here. The leader just gave you a small sampling of it. But we're done being lectured on transparency by the same party that orchestrated one of the most shameless, dangerous political cover-ups in the history of this country or any government on the face of planet Earth. If the Democrats want to talk transparency, I'm happy to rewind the tape. 366 days ago, President Joe Biden was unceremoniously forced off the Democrat ticket. Everybody knows why. Even after millions of Americans had already cast their primary votes for him, the self-proclaimed party of democracy threw out their nominee, the sitting president of the United States, for his disastrous debate performance. On the debate stage, President Biden revealed to the American people what Democrats in Congress spent 4 long years trying to hide, that the President of the United States of America was in rapid mental decline and unable to continue serving as the leader of the free world. I'm going to say that again. The man holding the most powerful office on the face of the earth, who we now know was being propped up by his staff and Democrats in Congress, was in rapid mental decline. It was as shocking as it was dangerous, and they all participated in it. Nearly every single one of the Democrats who shamelessly attempted to pull the wool over our eyes still holds office today. You ought to be chasing them down the hallways asking for their responses on that. We released a 14-minute long video yesterday with just a small sample of the countless receipts of the Democrats at every level spending this fantastical lie to the American people. I encourage every reporter in this room to go watch that. You ought to use the clips and you ought to go ask them about it. And remember that the same Democrats who lied to us for years are now trying to convince you they stand for transparency. They participated in one of the greatest political scandals in all of history, and the House Republicans are not going to allow this to be whitewashed from the historical record. We'll continue to investigate and shine light on those who perpetrated this and provide answers directly to the American people. Now, President Biden's mental condition was poor, but his legacy of achievement in office was even worse. And I've said many times, after those 4 years of Biden and Harris, every single area of public policy was in a disastrous state. In Congress and the White House, we've been hard at work from day one of this Congress, day one of the Trump administration, trying to undo all that damage of the last 4 years. And we're laying the foundation for what will make our country safer, stronger, and more prosperous than ever before. The American people gave President Trump a clear mandate to enact his America First agenda, and Republicans answered the call. To date, we've enacted 50 of the president's executive orders, from reining in bureaucratic waste, fraud, and abuse, to passing common sense legislation, to delivering our once-in-a-generation legislative victories through the One Big Beautiful Bill. Let me give you a quick summary. Americans asked for secure borders and safer communities, and Republicans delivered the largest investment in border security and interior enforcement on record. And with the Halt Fentanyl Act and the Lake and Riley Act, we're making sure American communities are safe from deadly drugs and illegal aliens that have taken far too many lives. The American people asked us for bigger paychecks and more affordable gas and groceries, and we delivered on that too. We delivered the largest working and middle-class tax cut in the history of the United States. And we've torn down Biden-era regulations like the California EV mandate that was just madness, and worked against working families and American energy dominance. The American people demanded fiscal sanity, and Republicans delivered again. We passed more than $1.5 trillion in spending cuts so the government can begin to live within its means again. All of this is real, positive change for American families, the kind that they are going to directly feel in their bank accounts, they're going to see it in their neighborhoods, and they're going to count on it for years to come. Any of these individual feats as standalone bills would have been considered historic achievements by any Republican Congress. And we got them all done, all together, in one big, beautiful bill. And the more the American people hear about that bill, the more they like it. There was a Harvard Harris poll that recently surveyed the individual titles, the individual pieces of the big bill. And they found that 17 of the 21 major proposals polled had a majority of support. That's including things like reducing federal spending and imposing common sense work requirements on public assistance. But while the American people continue to learn about the bill, they'll also begin to feel its positive effects because we did this on a very aggressive timetable. As you all know, we put it on an ambitious timeline to be delivered. Many in this room said it wouldn't succeed. You wrote about it. I read all that. That's fine. We said we needed 6 weeks to craft our House budget resolution, and we passed it in February. We said we'd pass our House version of the One Big Beautiful Bill by Memorial Day, and we beat that deadline by 4 days. We said we'd pass it through both chambers and get it to the president's desk for signature by July 4th. And what happened? We had a big, beautiful signing ceremony at the White House on Independence Day. It was a historic day, and it's a testament to what this House Republican Conference can accomplish when we remain united and working towards a common goal. Last thought here on closing note. This is the last leadership press conference before we enter the August district work period. Around here, people call it the August recess. It is not that, okay? So I know that lots of people in the press corps are going to be able to enjoy some downtime with friends and families, and we commend you for that, but House Republicans aren't going to get to participate in all that stuff because this month of August is not a vacation. This is arguably the most important work month on our calendar. Why? Because our members go home, they connect with their constituents in person, they host roundtables with local businesses and organizations, they meet with community stakeholders and local officials, really, really important components of the job. And frankly, they need to cut through the false and misleading claims about the one big beautiful bill from the media and the Democrats. As I mentioned, the more people know, the more they greatly favor the bill that we passed. And House Republicans are going to spend the month highlighting how it will positively impact our districts and our communities. With that, I'll take a few questions.
Mr. Speaker.
Chad.
Good morning. You say yesterday that you were in lockstep with the administration on the Epstein files, but it doesn't seem that you're in lockstep with all of your House Republicans.